What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 40. We have Aspen Ladd going against Norma Dumont, and it feels like just like last week, there's not a ton of great fights on paper, but last week definitely delivered in a big way. Enjoyed the fights last week. I feel like it could be kind of the same case here where, on paper, it's hard to get excited for Ariana Carnelossi, Estela Nunes. It's hard to get excited for, Norma Dumont going against Aspen Ladd as the main event. It's hard to get excited for Carlos Felipe going against Andrei Arlovski as the co-main event. It's really hard to get excited for this card, but, as I always say, it's better than having no fights at all on a Saturday. So looking forward to it. I think it'll surprise some people. Just like last week's card, it looked awful on paper, but it definitely did deliver. And looking forward to keep the momentum rolling, and not only on the bets, but on the picks as well. I think in the last three cards, I've got 4 picks wrong. That's pretty good. There's been 2 cards where I got 1 wrong, and then I got 2 wrong like 2 weeks ago as well. So yeah, the picks have been great. I came off a winning night last week, kept it light. I feel like I'm going to keep it light again this week. I have 1 bet thus far. I'm looking at a couple other things, but yeah, looking forward to this card. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already so you not miss out on all the other content throughout the week. Me and Uncle Weezy went live on Monday, going deep into the main event, breaking that down. If you have not checked that out, go check it out. Going live on Friday after the weigh-ins, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and then we'll be going live once more Saturday, fight day, 1 hour prior to the prelims. The prelims start at 4 as of now. We'll be going live at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, going over the best bet for each and every fight on the card, a show that a lot of people seem to like, including me. I think it's a great show. If you do want to support me more, you can check out the Patreon down below. The link, $10 option, is probably the most popular betting tier. With that, you get all the stats for each and every fighter, and all the matchup stats as well. You get early access to my bets. Like I said, I have 1 thus far. And then also access to my betting article and access to Discord, all the good stuff, tons of value on there, $10 a month. Great deal. I like to think so, and a lot of people seem to like it as well. So with all that out of the way, I say we get into it, and let's start with the very first fight of the night. And we have Ariana Carnelossi going against Estela Nunes, the newcomer. We have Ariana Carnelossi. She is 28 years old, 5'2", with a 61.5-inch reach, 13-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Estela Nunes, she is 29 years old, 5'4", not sure on the reach, but she is 7-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here, and we do see that Carnelossi opened up as a -175 favorite. She is currently -155. Estela Nunes opened up +150. She is currently +135. So yeah, Carnelossi, I'll never forget it. I mean, it was the very first fight back with fans, UFC 261, going against Liang Na. And I remember betting the under 2.5 rounds in that fight, and it was just a very, very exciting fight. I mean, the crowd was pumped up. First fight back with the crowd, and it was a very fun fight for as long as it lasted. Liang Na had success early, and then she kind of gassed out, and that's kind of how Liang Na fights. But Carnelossi was able to get her very first win against Liang Na there. She made her UFC debut against Angela Hill. Angela Hill kind of touched her up for 3 rounds, ended up getting a TKO stop. I think it was like a cut stoppage. Angela Hill cut her open with an elbow. But yeah, as far as Estela Nunes, there are some question marks about her. She has not fought in 3 years, and I'm not 100% sure why she has not fought. Was it an injury? Was it multiple injuries? Was it a suspension? But all I know is she has not fought in 3 years. And you take a look at some of her fights, back when she has fought, like 25 years old, 26 years old, and I'm actually kind of impressed with her game in terms of the striking. She has a Muay Thai background. Apparently, she's like 50-4 in Muay Thai fights, so that's good. I guess the one weakness that I did see in her game was going to be the ground game. She can be taken down, and she can be taken down very easily, and that's interesting to me because you take a look at Carnelossi, and that's not really something she does all that much. I mean, I've seen her take down fighters outside the UFC, picking up fighters with just pure strength, no technique whatsoever, and slamming them, but I don't know if that's going to work here. And then on top of that, with not seeing Estela Nunes in 3 years, with her still being young, she's 29 now, she was 26 the last time she fought, I believe, we got to expect some improvements. And from what I've seen like 3-4 years ago, I think she's a really solid striker, and if this is a fight that does stay standing, I think she's going to have some advantages here. I mean, Carnelossi is somebody that she's going to have the power advantage, but she is very, very hittable. On paper, she has a 47% striking defense thus far. She is there to be hit. She relies on her toughness, which she does have. But I think the better striker could potentially be Nunes here, especially, banking on some extra improvements that we could see in the last 3 years. So I'm actually going to take a shot on the dog in terms of a pick. There's just too many question marks for me to bet it, though. I'm going to pick Estela Nunes to win by decision. But again, it's a tough fight to call. I think it's a very close fight. Do you favor the power of Carnelossi, or do you favor the technique of Estela Nunes? I'm going to go with the technique and the potential improvements of Nunes in the very first fight of the night, taking the dog by decision. Moving on, we have the return of Brandon Davis going against Dana Bakkerel, somebody that's won me a lot of money the past couple fights. We have Dana Bakkerel. He is 32 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 9-1 or 9-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Brandon Davis, he is 31 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 14-8, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. And we will take a look at the odds. We see that Dana Bakkerel actually opened at minus 300. He's currently minus 182, and Brandon Davis opened up plus 250. He is now plus 157. So some money is coming in on the Brandon Davis side, and I completely agree. I think this is a close fight, and I'm a big Dana Bakkerel fan. I really like this guy. This guy hits like an absolute truck for the division. But, Brandon Davis is going to have some advantages in this fight. Brandon Davis is going to be 1 year younger. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, or a 3-inch height advantage. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage as well. Like, Brandon Davis is huge for the division. In terms of the power, you got to favor Dana Bakkerel, but I don't think the striking is clearly in favor of Dana. Yes, I'm going to favor the power of him, but Brandon Davis is a decent striker himself, and one thing I did want to bring up is just the level of competition between the two. Brandon Davis, when he's losing to legit guys. He lost to Zabit, he lost to Giga Chikadze. No shame in those losses. Kung Ho Kong, no shame in that loss. Enrique Barzilla, no shame in that loss. Kyle Bochniak, there is some shame in that loss, but it was a close fight. He beat Randy Costa by submission. He beat Steven Peterson. He beat Austin Arnett. Those are some good wins and some good losses on the Brandon Davis side, whereas Dana Bakkerel, he lost to Alatang Lee in his UFC debut, a fight that I personally scored for him, but it was a close fight, and he did get taken down 3 times in that 3rd round. And then he goes out there and knocks out a 42-year-old Guido Canetti, and then he goes out there and knocks out Kevin Natividad, who probably should not be in the UFC. I don't know if he's cut, but I think he'll be cut pretty soon. So yeah, it's a close fight. Do you favor the power of Dana Bakkerel, or could you see Brandon Davis potentially mixing in takedowns? And that's kind of where I'm leaning. Brandon Davis, I believe, is a brown belt in BJJ, and we saw in the Giga Chikadze fight, in his very last fight, he was very he wanted to go for takedowns and go for a lot of them. He went for 7 takedowns, and he was able to get 3 of them. I believe 1 in each round. And if he implements that game plan, I think he can have success, because we saw Alatang Lee was able to go out there and take down Dana Bakkerel 3 times. And it was weird. The whole fight, Alatang Lee attempted no takedowns, which was weird because we expected him to. And then in the 3rd round, he starts taking him down. He's having success in doing so. So I think on the feet, I do favor Dana Bakkerel, but I don't think it's a huge, giant advantage. And then on the mat, I could see Brandon Davis going, takedown after takedown, mixing in the takedowns, and having success on the mat there. So I'm actually going to side with the dog again in terms of a pick in Brandon Davis to upset Dana Bakkerel, somebody who I'm very high on, and win a very close competitive decision here. So give me Dana Bakkerel by decision. All right, moving on, another guy that I'm very high, we have Ludwig Klein going against Nate Landwehr, a fight that should be very fun, as are, both Landwehr and Klein fights. They're always very fun fights, and they always, tend to, end in a finish for the most part. We have Klein, who was 26 years old, 5'7", with a 72-inch reach, 17-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Nate Landwehr, 33 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 14-4 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So Landwehr is going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 2.5-inch reach disadvantage though. And then Klein is going to be a good 7 years younger than Landwehr here. So let's take a look at the odds, and we do see that Klein is a pretty big favorite. Opened at minus 220. He is now minus 300. Nate Landwehr opened up plus 185. He is now plus 250. So as far as Nate Landwehr goes, he is a very exciting fighter. He comes forward. He was screaming and yelling in that Darren Elkins fight. Very fun and exciting fight there. But I really question the The IQ, I really question the striking defense of Nate Landwehr. I mean, he's somebody that got knocked out with a knee against Herbert Burns, and then he got knocked out with a flying knee against Julian as well. So, I don't want to say I question the chin because the guy's a really tough guy, but he has been knocked out in 2 of his 3 UFC fights. But those shots that landed, pretty much will knock out anybody. But with that said, like, he is so hittable, and you do not want to be hittable against Ludwig Klein. Like, I went back and watched a ton of Klein fights, and there was like 5-6 fights in a row. I was watching, just going down the list, watching his fights. There was like 5 or 6 fights in a row where head kick knockout, head kick knockout, head kick knockout, head kick knockout. Like, that's pretty much anything if you go watch tape on this guy, you're going to see a head kick knockout. I saw one fight where he was actually able to finish somebody with strikes, but head kick knockout for the most part. And being hittable, in Landwehr's case, it's not good, especially in a fight like this. I think Klein's going to put him out probably with a head kick. But yeah, this should be a fun fight for as long as it lasts. Landwehr's going to come forward with reckless abandon. He's going to not have any striking defense. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. He's going to throw a lot of volume, but that's not what you want to do against Ludwig Klein at all. So yeah, I like Klein here. I like him quite a bit. It's just hard to see a path to victory for Landwehr. Like, is Landwehr going to take down Klein? No, he's not. Is Landwehr going to outstrike Klein for 3 rounds? I just don't see it. Is Landwehr going to knock out Klein? I just don't see it. So I like Klein here. I like him quite a bit. I like him to win by knockout. One thing I will say, though, about Landwehr is his takedown defense is very good. Darren Elkins was like 1 for 13 on takedowns against Landwehr there, so that's impressive. We did see that Klein did go to his ground game in his last fight against Trezano, taking down Trezano 4 times, so maybe that's not there for Klein, but I really don't think it matters. I think Klein does knock him out at some point in this fight, and I will say it is that head kick that he does like, and it has a ton of head kick knockouts on his record. So give me Klein to win. Give me Klein to win by a vicious KO, which would make 3 vicious KOs against Nate Landwehr in his UFC career. All right, next we have Cigar Eubanks going against Luana Carolina. We have Eubanks, 36 years old, 5'4", with a 67-inch reach, 7-6, and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Luana Carolina, 28 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach, 7-2, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We will take a look at the odds, and we see that not many books have the line out now, but we do see that Eubanks opened up -260. She's currently -255. Carolina opened up +200. She is currently +205. Okay, so this is a fight where, I think the clear winner, the clear pick is going to be Eubanks here. I'm just not, completely confident about it. There are some things that kind of sketch me out on the Eubanks side, and I'll talk about those. One being the age. She is 36 years old. She's getting up there. Another being how, at 135, she was somebody that struggled to make weight at that weight class at 135, and then she comes down to 125, which she's fought there before, but she comes back down against Elise Reed. She makes weight. She looks good. She goes out there and finishes Elise Reed in the first round, as expected. But I guess my concern is the gas tank of Eubanks. How's the weight cut going to affect her gas tank? How's it going to affect if she does get into the second and the third round? That's my only concern because I think she's better everywhere. I think she's the better striker. I think Luana Carolina can have success here and there. She's very long. She's very rangy. She throws a lot of volume, but she's very hittable. I feel like Eubanks can get on the inside and definitely land a ton of shots there. But I think the biggest difference in skill is going to be on the mat. Eubanks is a legit black belt. We saw it in her last fight. She was able to take down Elise Reed, eventually, get her out of there with some punches. She has some submissions on her record as well. And we see that Carolina, she can be taken down. What I will say about Carolina, though, is her ground game is questionable for sure, but her takedown defense is very, very good. So my concern is what happens if Eubanks gets her down early on in the first round, she has success, she wins that first round, and then what happens if she slows down? Because we saw it in plenty of fights. We saw it in the Panic Yanzad fight. Sarah Eubanks looks really good early, she slows down. We saw it in the Betch Correa fight. She looks really good early, she almost finishes Betch Correa, and then she loses the next 2. I guess that's my concern is, what if she wins the first round and then loses the next 2 against Carolina? So I like Eubanks. I think she's better everywhere. I think she's the much better fighter. But the age, the weight cut, it definitely concerns me a little bit. I do want to see the weigh-ins. I want to see how Eubanks does look. If she looks good, maybe my confidence will increase a little bit. But I think it's a solid matchup for her. I think she's going to take down Carolina and have a lot of success on the mat. I mean, when Ariana Lipski is submitting you with a knee bar, Lipski, the striker for the most part. Like that's not good. We saw Botelho was able to have success against Carolina as well. Took her down in the first round, but Botelho kind of slowed down throughout the fight herself. So I like Eubanks, clear pick for me, but if it does get out of the first round, which it probably does, if it does get into the third round, it probably gets, sketchy. So I'm going to stay away probably from a money line perspective, from a parlay perspective, but as far as a pick, I do like Eubanks to win this fight quite a bit. And we'll move on to the next fight. We have Danny Roberts going against Ramzan Ameev. We have Ameev, who is 34 years old, 5'10", with a 68.5-inch reach, 20-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Danny Roberts, 34 years old, 6'1", 74-inch reach, 17-5, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we will take a look at the odds. And we do see that Ameev is a favorite. He opened up minus 300. He's currently minus 240. And then Danny Roberts opened up plus 250. He's currently plus 205. So I guess the big thing here for me is going to be the takedown defense of Danny Roberts. Roberts is the more dangerous fighter. He has multiple finishes on his record. Ameev more of a decisionator, but I think I'm going to, go with Ameev decision here because Roberts, 53% takedown defense. Like, that's not good, especially in a matchup like this where Ameev is probably going to take him down. He's probably going to grind him out for 3 rounds. Danny Roberts got taken down once by Zelim Imadaev. He got taken down by three times by Claudia Silva. Got taken down twice by David Zawada. Got taken down twice by Bobby Nash. Got taken down by Nathan Coy as well. So he gets taken down fairly easy. The takedown defense isn't there. And although I'm not very high on Ramzan Ameev, a lot of people think he's a boring fighter, but he does fight smart. He does have good fight IQ. He's going to, if he doesn't like how things are going on the feet, he's going to take the fight down to the mat, and I think he'll have no problem doing that. He does average a little bit over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, a 29% accuracy, and I think that the 53% takedown defense of Roberts, and also the layoff of Roberts as well. We have not seen Roberts fight since 2019, November of 2019, so it's been a while since we have seen Danny Roberts, a little over 2 years since we've seen him. I'm going to go with the more active guy in Ramzan Ameev. I'm going to go with Ramzan Ameev because he has a clear path to victory, and that path to victory is just taking him down. Ameev was able to take down David Zawada 4 times, win decision. He's able to take down Nicholas Stolze 4 times, win a decision. He's able to take down Alberto Mina 3 times, win decision. Stefan Sekulik able to take him down twice, win a decision. So I think just the takedowns is going to be key here. If there is a finish in this fight, it's going to come from the Roberts side. I don't see Ameev finishing Roberts, which is interesting because I believe Roberts has been finished in all 5 of his losses, but that's just not Ameev's game. Ameev is kind of like a take you down, grind you out guy, stay safe on the feet. So I'm going to say Ameev does win. I'm going to say he does win by decision, and I'm pretty confident in that pick. Like outside of like a Roberts submission or maybe hurting Ameev on the feet, I think Ameev should pretty much win this fight more often than not. All right, next we have Andrew Sanchez going against Bruno Silva. We have Bruno Silva, 32 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 20-6 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Andrew Sanchez, he is 33 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach, 12-6 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So there, I believe, was a layoff, right? Yeah. So the last time that Silva fought before making his UFC debut was almost 3 years ago. Makes his UFC debut against Wellington Turman, and he looked really good in that fight. We'll talk about more about that matchup in a bit because it is pretty important. So taking a look at the odds, we do see that Silva is a favorite, opened up plus 100. He's now minus 132. And then we see that Andrew Sanchez opened up minus 120. He's now plus 112. So the line kind of flipped there as far as the opener goes. So back to Bruno Silva. Yeah, so we had a long layoff. I'm not sure. I want to say it was a type of suspension for Bruno Silva. But he comes back in his UFC debut against Wellington Turman, and I was actually really impressed with what I saw in terms of the improvements. Like, you take a look at Silva, and how does he lose? He loses by submission. I believe all 5 or 6 of his losses have came by submission. Fighters are able to take him down easy. Fighters are able to submit him, take his back easy. And apparently, like, now he's a black belt, which is weird because he's been submitted 6 times, but apparently he's a black belt now, and his takedown defense looked legit. It looked legit against Wellington Turman. He was able to officially stuff all 10 out of 10 takedown attempts from Wellington Turman. And, Turman was able to get him down here and there, but, Silva got up so fast that they don't even count those takedowns. So, yeah, I was very impressed with the improvements that we did see on the Bruno Silva side. And the thing with Andrew Sanchez is, you take a look at his career and how his game kind of evolved. He's somebody that, earlier in his career, he'd go for takedowns. In his first 4 fights, he had 13 takedowns total. And then in his last 5 fights, he only has 2. He only has 2 takedowns in his last 5 fights. And you got to think, like, this is a fight where he's going to need to go for takedowns. He's not going to want to strike with Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva, we saw the ground and pound against Wellington Turman. Looked like he was barely touching Turman, and he puts him out cold. Like, this guy hits like a truck. This guy has an 85% finish rate, all by knockout. You do not want to strike with Bruno Silva if you are Andrei Sanchez, who has been knocked out 4 times, who's very hittable, who has a negative significant strike differential, who absorbs 5 strikes per minute in Andrei Sanchez, and who has a 51% striking defense. Sanchez is going to have to go to that ground game early and often and mix in takedowns, which, we saw him do that earlier in his career, but sometimes they backfire on him. Like, we saw Andrei Sanchez slow down in multiple fights and get finished in a couple of them because he's using that wrestling-heavy game plan against Ryan James. He takes down James 3 times, and he gasses out. He slows down at the end of the fight. He gets knocked out in the third. Same thing against Anthony Smith. He takes down Anthony Smith 4 times. He slows down really bad, gasses out, and Anthony Smith is able to finish him in that 3rd round. So if he does go to this wrestling-heavy game plan, how's his gas tank going to look? Because his gas tanks looked a lot better. It looked, better against Makhmud Murdoch, Wellington Turman, Marvin Vettori even, because he's not wrestling in these fights. So if he does try to wrestle Bruno Silva, how's that gas tank going to look going forward into the fight? And then also, will he even have success in taking him down? Because Bruno Silva's takedown defense looked good, and remind you that Sanchez is a much better wrestler than a Wellington Turman, but still, like, that was pretty impressive to me. So yeah, I actually do like this matchup for Bruno Silva. If they're just going to strike for 15 minutes, you got to favor Silva there. And if Andrei Sanchez does go for takedowns, will he be successful in doing so for 3 rounds? I kind of lean towards no. I mean, like, maybe early success, but I don't see him doing it consistently for 3 rounds. So I do like Bruno Silva here. I like Bruno Silva to win by knockout. I think he's going to be the 5th person to knock out Andrei Sanchez. This guy's a monster. This guy hits very, very hard. Give me Bruno Silva to win and win by a vicious knockout. All right, next we have the People's Main Event. I'm actually looking forward to this fight, and I'm not even joking about it. Like, this fight should be an absolute banger for as long as it lasts. We have Julian Marquez going against Jordan Wright. We have Marquez, who is 31 years old, 6'2", 72-inch reach, 9-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Jordan Wright, 30 years old, 6'2", 77-inch reach, 12-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. I'm not going to bring up, Jordan Wright's record previous to the UFC. I've done it every fight now. But basically, very sketchy record outside of the UFC. I think like his first 8 fights, the guys that he's beating didn't even have a win. Jordan Wright coming from the Alaskan fight scene, and he's somebody that, he's doing a lot better than I expected him to do in the UFC. He's getting some wins over some very tough guys, like Villanueva, a very tough guy, Jamie Pickett, a very tough guy. But let's take a look at these odds. We see that Marquez opened up -175. He's currently -235. Jordan Wright opened up +150. He's currently +200. So some money is coming in on the Marquez side. And I take a look through Julian Marquez's career, and where does he seem to have problems? And the problem is with Marquez, that takedown defense. That takedown defense is bad. 53% takedown defense from Julian Marquez. Phil Haas was able to take him down in the Contender Series in round 1. Darren Stewart was able to take him down 4 times. Alessio Di Chirico was able to take him down 4 times, and Maki Bitolo was able to take him down 5 times. So the takedown defense is not good. But with that said, is that Jordan Wright's game? And the answer to that is absolutely not. Jordan Wright has attempted 1 takedown in the UFC, and he has not been successful in that, averaging 0 takedowns in the UFC. So I don't think that he's going to take down Marquez here, and that's kind of where Marquez struggles, if anywhere. And even in the fights where he is getting taken down, he's still winning a lot of these fights. Darren Stewart took him down 4 times. He submitted Darren Stewart in the 2nd round. Phil Haas took him down in the 1st round. He knocks out Phil Haas in the 2nd round. Maki Bitolo takes him down 5 times, controls him for 9 minutes and 7 seconds of that fight, and then Julian Marquez submits him in that 3rd round. So I'm really impressed with what I see from Julian Marquez. I guess the only thing I don't like is how hittable this guy is, which we'll get to it, but both guys are very hittable, but one guy has toughness and one guy does not. Julian Marquez is as tough as they come. Like, you would need a baseball bat to knock this guy out. I watched a fight One of his very first fights of his career, he absorbed like literally over 200 significant strikes, no problem. This guy's chin is on the next level, whereas I cannot say the same thing about Jordan Wright, who, for one, he has a 39% striking defense. Like, that's not going to cut it in this matchup. And for two, he got knocked out twice against Joaquin Buckley. I thought they could have stopped the fight in the first round. They didn't stop it. It got to the second round. He knocks out Wright convincingly in the second round there. Anthony Hernandez, this fight got overturned due to Fluffy popping for some marijuana. Fluffy Hernandez, somebody that's not a guy that's known for going out there and starching somebody in 40 seconds. He goes out there and he starches Jordan Wright in about 40 seconds in round one. So, Jordan Wright, to be successful, he's going to need to stay on the outside, use those kicks. He's impressed me. He really has impressed me, but Marquez is going to come forward like a madman. He's going to get into a war, into a brawl, like all of his fights do, and that's just not something that Jordan Wright wants to participate in. Jordan Wright is a very good hammer, but he's an awful nail. When you pressure this guy, he looks uncomfortable, and he kind of looks for a way out. Like against Fluffy Hernandez, Hernandez pressured him, and Jordan Wright had nothing to do with that, and he looked for a way out of there, got knocked out. Same thing with Buckley. Buckley, put it on him, and Wright just didn't have an answer for it. So, I see the same thing with Marquez. I think Marquez is going to knock out Wright. Could Wright catch him early? Potentially, but that'd be interesting, right? Because Marquez is just so tough, never been knocked out, and Marquez has fought some hard hitters like Phil Hawes. But I'm going to go with the toughness of Marquez. I'm going to go with that durability he has. I think this is going to be a very fun fight for as long as it lasts, but I'm telling you now, this is not going to last long. Jordan Wright has never seen the over 1.5 rounds in 14 total fights, including one no contest. He's never seen the over 1.5 rounds. I think he's been to the second round like twice in his career. So, yeah, I think Marquez does get it done. I think he does get it done in very brutal fashion. So give me Julian Marquez by knockout. I'll say it probably the first or second round there. All right, next we have Manon Fiora going against Maro Bueno Silva. We have Manon Fiora, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach, 7-1, and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Maro Bueno Silva, she is 30 years old, 5'6" with a 66.5-inch reach, 7-1-1, and 3-1-1 in her last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds that we see that Manon Fiora is a decent-sized favorite. She opened up as a minus 220 favorite. The line has been moving up and down, and she is now still minus 220. Maro Bueno Silva opened up plus 185. She is currently still plus 185. So originally looking into this matchup, and originally as in the first time it was booked, because this is now the second time it was booked, I believe Fiora had COVID, I think. So it is getting moved here. But the first time I looked into this matchup, I thought, what's going to happen if this fight touches the ground? Because Maro Bueno Silva is, she is phenomenal on the mat. Her ground game is really good and really impressive. She's dangerous. She has 3 submissions in between the UFC and the Ultimate Fighter, submitting Julian Robertson, who obviously a great grappler, Maro Morella Barello, and then Kalem on the Dana White's Contender Series Brazil. So she is dangerous. She is very dangerous. Actually, all 3 of her wins come by submission. So what shocks me is you take a look at her and you dig into it. She's attempted 0 takedowns in a 5-fight sample UFC Contender Series, and that's terrifying if you are on the Bueno Silva side, because if she does not go for takedowns in this fight, it's gonna be a rough night for her against Manon Fiora. I give Manon Fiora the striking advantage, pretty convincingly here. You go back and watch Silva's fight against Marina Moroz. I kind of feel like it's gonna look like that fight on the feet, where Moroz was able just to pick apart Moroz Silva on the feet and outland her 139-88, and it showed how hittable Maro Bueno Silva is. She is very, very hittable. A 47% striking defense, and that's a pretty good sample as well. A 47% striking defense, absorbing more than she gives out. And, Manon Fiora is going to be she's going to have a good advantage on the feet here, I think. The volume that she brings, the power that she brings with how hittable Silva is, I think it's going to be a very tough night at the office for Silva if she does not get it down to the mat. And is she going to shoot her very first takedown? Will this be the fight? I mean, you got to hope so. But even then, we see that Fiora's takedown defense looks very good. When fighters take her down, she looks very, very strong. She's able to stuff the takedowns. Tabitha Ricci, which remind you, like Tabitha Ricci and Maro Bueno Silva are nowhere close in skill, but she was able to stuff the takedowns easily of Ricci, and I think she does the same thing here. And maybe she doesn't have to worry about the takedowns, because if Silva's not attempting any takedowns, if Silva wants us on the feet, which makes no sense to me, she should have a pretty easy night here. But yeah, if this fight does hit the mat, I'm going to be sweating if I do have a Maro man on Fiora play, because of how dangerous Silva is on the mat. She is so dangerous. Submitting Julian Robertson, that's no joke there. So I'm going to take man on Fiora to win. I'm going to take her to win by... I'm actually going to say she wins by third round knockout. I'm going to say she just puts it on her, kind of like Marina Moroz did, lands a ton of significant strikes. I think the damage is going to add up, and I think eventually Fiora's going to get her out of there. But yeah, curious to I'm really curious to see the game plan of Silva here. Is she going to stand and strike with Fiora like she did against Moroz, or is she going to actually attempt a takedown in this fight? Will this be the very first takedown she attempts in the UFC? You gotta think so, but if not, it's gonna be one-way traffic for Mana Fiora here. So I'm gonna take Mana Fiora to win. I'm gonna take her to win by third round knockout. Cannot wait for this fight. All right, next we have Jim Miller going against Eric Gonzalez, the newcomer. We have Jim Miller, who is 38 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 32-16, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Eric Gonzalez, 29 years old, 5'11", 74-inch reach, 14-5, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We do see that Jim Miller is a favorite, opening up -185, currently -220. Eric Gonzalez opening up +160, currently +185. And yeah, not overly impressed with what I saw from Eric Gonzalez. He's one, very tough guy, and I know people like these tough guys that are very tough. They come forward, they throw volume. That's kind of his style, coming forward, throwing volume, and maybe he goes for takedowns here or there as well. But I guess the biggest hole I saw in the game of Eric Gonzalez is going to be the takedown defense. This guy got taken down so many times. Pretty much every fight I watch, this guy's getting taken down. Humberto Bondone, who was in the UFC, took him down a couple times. Rafa Garcia took him down 5, 6, 7, 8 times, a ton of times in that fight. And it's easy to take this guy down, and you do not want to be on the mat with Jim Miller, especially early. Jim Miller, when he does win as of late, it is in the first round. His last 4 wins all come in the first round. He had a first-round submission over Roosevelt Roberts, a first-round submission over Clay Guida, a first-round submission over Jason Gonzalez, a first-round submission over Alex White. When he's winning, it's in the first round, and it's by submission. The last time he didn't win by first-round submission was all the way back in 2016 against Thiago Alves. So, Jim Miller is going to get this fight down to the mat. He's going to get down to the mat in the first round. If Eric Gonzalez can survive, I do have some concerns about Jim Miller going forward because of that gas tank. He does slow down a lot as the fight goes on. He's now 38 years old. He has not won a fight that went outside of the first round in 4 or 5 years, so that's concerning. But I just think Jim Miller is going to get an opportunity to go out there, get a takedown, and then finish the fight shortly after. So I'm going to take Jim Miller here to win. I'm going to take him to win by first round submission. I just think it's a levels fight here. We see that Jim Miller's fought the much better competition, and it's not even comparable. And then also the takedown defense, the hole in the takedown defense game of Eric Gonzalez, I think is going to backfire here in a big way. And I think Jim Miller does take him down and submit him probably shortly after. So give me Jim Miller to win. Give me Jim Miller to win by first round submission. All right, next we have a co-main event. We have Andrei Arlovski going against Carlos Felipe. We have Felipe, who is 26 years old, 6 foot, with a 75-inch reach, 11-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Andrei Arlovski, he is 42 years old, 6'3", with a 77-inch reach, 31-20, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds, and they're very close. We have Andrei Arlovski opening up -160, currently -102. Carlos Felipe opening up +140. He's currently -118. So yeah, I really don't love this fight, to be honest. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I thought originally, before looking into it, I'd be betting Carlos Felipe. Andrei Arlovski is now, 42 years old. Andrei Arlovski is very low volume at times, and I do like a couple things of Felipe's game, and that is he's durable. He's very durable. That's good. He has good cardio in terms of a heavyweight. That's good. And he throws a lot of volume. All those things are very good. So I like all those 3 things in the game of Carlos Felipe. But what I don't like was going back and seeing that Carlos Felipe got outstruck 130-94 against Jake Collier. What I don't like is going back and seeing that Justin Tafa outstruck him 86-77. What I don't like seeing is that he lands 4.8 significant strikes. That's good, but he's absorbing 5.62 with a 50% striking defense. So, yeah, this fight is, I don't like this fight. It's just a tough fight to call. It's going to go to decision, as most Felipe fights do. Felipe has been to 4 decisions in the UFC, 2 of them being split decisions against Jake Collier and Tafa, and winning 3 of those 4 decisions. Andrei Arlovski is somebody that, again, he's been winning by decision. Last time Arlovski's won by knockout was back in 2015 against Travis Brown. That was like 17 fights ago, something crazy like that. So, yeah, it's a tough fight to call. If the Andrei Arlovski shows up that showed up against Chase Sherman, landing 105 significant strikes, I think he could win. If the Andrei Arlovski shows up that fought Ben Rothwell, landing 152 significant strikes, I think he wins. But if the Andrei Arlovski shows up that fought Tanner Boser, which he won that fight, but he was so low volume, only landed 34 significant strikes, I don't think he wins this fight because Carlos Felipe is going to bring it. He's going to come forward. He's going to throw volume, and it's up to Andrei Arlovski. Is he going to match that volume or even, throw greater volume, or is he going to kind of, try to be the more technical striker, kind of sit back and really pick his spots? So, yeah, it's a tough fight. I'm actually going to lean with the younger guy, and Carlos Felipe. I don't like it, especially looking back at that Collier fight where he was doing a ton of showboating in a fight that was very close, arguably a fight that he was losing and a fight that he arguably lost as well. Same thing in the Spivak fight, same thing in the Tafa fight as well. I just don't like what I see in terms of that. It's gonna be a close fight though. No interest in betting it. I thought it would be originally, but I want to stay far away from this fight as possible. Give me Carlos Felipe to win a very close, probably controversial decision as well. Next, we have the main event. Norma Dumont going against Aspen Ladd. I want to remind you guys to check out me and Weezy's video we did on Monday going in deep on this fight. We brought up a lot of great points there. But, yeah, we have a main event here. Aspen Ladd stepping in on short notice, going against Norma Dumont. Holly Holm was supposed to fight Dumont. Holly Holm pulled out. In steps Ladd, who was supposed to fight a couple weeks ago against Macy Chiasson, and she had another tough weight cut. It was worse than the GDR weight cut where she looked horrible in that one, and she looked horrible in this one against Macy Chiasson. It was a terrible, terrible look, and she did come in 1 pound over. Macy Chiasson actually was the one that apparently declined the fight, which is interesting, but in steps Ladd, up a weight class, 145 pounds, and this is a fight where we take a look at the odds, and I'm a little confused, but then again, I'm not, because a lot of people still don't know probably who Norma Dumont is. A lot of people probably don't know who the heck this fighter is, and there are still some question marks. I'm still trying to figure out who the heck she is, right? And the reason being is she only has like 6 or 7 fights. I'm only able to watch like 4 of them, and we're not getting a ton of answers in terms of, how good is her takedown defense? How is she off her back? Because we haven't seen it. And this is a fight where you think it'd be tested. We see that Norma Dumont opened up plus 140. She's now plus 123. Aspen Ladd opened up minus 160. She's now minus 143. There's a lot of things going against Aspen Ladd in this fight, like a ton. For one, she's coming off of a huge layoff. When's the last time she fought? 2 years ago? 1 year and 10 months ago against Yana Kunitskaya. 1 year and 10 months ago was the last time she fought. She's coming off of 2 major injuries. I believe an MCL, ACL injury. That right there is a huge red flag. On top of that, she's coming up a weight class for the first time ever. Huge red flag. On top of that, she just missed weight and had a horrible weight cut like 1-2 weeks ago. Another red flag for Aspen Ladd. So, this is a fight where, again, I still don't know a lot about Norma Dumont. Like, how good is her takedown defense? We thought that would be answered in the Felicia Spencer fight. We thought it'd be answered. We thought that, hey, Felicia Spencer, what is she? She's a grappler. That's what she is. She's a black belt in BJJ. We thought, hey, maybe Felicia Spencer, the black belt grappler, will try to take down Norma Dumont to get the win. But we see in that Spencer fight, Spencer attempted a massive 0 takedowns in that fight. The black belt, the grappler, and Spencer attempted 0 takedowns against Norma Dumont, which shocked me. And it was Norma Dumont who actually took down Spencer. Norma Dumont, she has a Sambo background. She's a brown belt in BJJ. You take a look at some of her fights outside of the UFC, and her ground game looks good. It's not against the best competition, but she takes fighters down. She looks very strong. She's very thick as well. Compared to the thickness of Ladd, like, she's going to be the much thicker fighter. She's not like... she's like an inch taller, but in terms of like the thickness of the two, she's going to be much thicker. But yeah, Norma Dumont kind of surprised me against Ashley Evans Smith because I thought, Dumont, what is she? She's a grappler. You take a look at her fights outside the UFC. She's a grappler. She's getting it down to the mat. She's submitting her opponents. Against Ashley Evans Smith, she showed off her hands and they looked really good. Tons of volume, tons of power as well. And she was able to even knock down Ashley Evans Smith at one point. She outlands her over 2-1 in that fight in strikes. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, she's well-rounded. Like, she has that ground game. She has that brown belt. She has that wrestling. She has that strike. She's well-rounded. She's a very well-rounded fighter. And I don't know, like, this is a fight where I favor Norma Dumont on the feet quite a bit. We saw her hands against Ashley Evans Smith. They're very good. She was able to outland Felicia Spencer as well, 68-47. I think she's going to, clearly outland Aspen Ladd here. I think she has a massive advantage in the striking. It's just the ground game is what interests me. Is Ladd going to be able to take down Norma Dumont? What I will say is nobody's been able to do it from what I've seen. Norma Dumont looks very strong. Her takedown defense looks very good. So if Ladd does not get Norma Dumont down, it's going to be bad. It's going to be Dumont all day. The one thing that I don't like, and I like a lot of things about Norma Dumont in this fight, the one thing I didn't like was in the Felicia Spencer fight in the third round, she slowed down very bad to a point where she tried to take down Spencer. She couldn't get it, and ultimately she ended up like toppling over, falling over, letting Spencer get on top. I did not like seeing that in the third round. So the gas tank is a question for me in terms of Norma Dumont, but the same thing could be said for Ladd. 2 weight cuts, 2 weeks, a horrible weight cut last week. Yes, she's coming up weight, but she still might be feeling some of those effects. She's going to have to cut weight again even. How's Aspen Ladd's gas tank going to look, especially going against a much bigger fighter, trying to take down a much bigger fighter? And even if Dumont does get taken down, Ladd's ground game is very good. Her ground and pound is very good. But Dumont's, a brown belt in BJJ. I think she's more than capable of, surviving on the mat. So, yeah, it's a tough fight to call. There's still a ton of question marks. I don't see how anybody could be betting Ladd as a favorite. Just makes sense to me because we don't have enough info. Like, we've never seen Dumont taken down. We've never seen Dumont offer back. And I'm actually going to take Dumont here in this fight. I'm going to take Norma Dumont to win. I'm going to say she wins by decision. I'm really curious to see how these fighters do look in the 4th and 5th round. Like, who's going to have the better gas tank? I really don't know. Both gas tanks are kind of questionable to me. And with Ladd coming in on short notice, up a weight class, botching a weight cut last week, a week before, cutting weight again, how's that going to make her look? And then Norma Dumont did not really have a good look in that Felicia Spencer fight towards the end. So, yeah, sketchy fight, very sketchy fight. I'd rather go with the plus money dog here in Dumont. So give me Dumont to win, and give me Dumont to win by decision. And yeah, guys, that's about it. If you guys can please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. It'd be much appreciated. As always, if you do want to support me more, sign up on the Patreon, $10 a month. I do have one bet thus far. My article will be out midweek as well. Yeah, looking forward to this card. I mean, not the best card in terms of name value, but I do think it might deliver just like last week's did. Hopefully it does. So that's about it, guys. Check out the other content on the channel live Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, live Saturday, 1 hour prior to the prelims. Best of luck to you all. Let's win some money. UFC Vegas 40. See you guys.